I always believed Trump was authoritarian. I never believed that he cared about the Constitution or our former government. People thought that was hyperbole in the beginning. Now, I think a lot of people have caught on to that 3.5 years too late. On the other hand, I always thought talk of civil war was over dramatic and overhyped. And it still is, except I now have it on the board. I have it at non-zero percentage event. What's your thoughts?
Well, I would put Civil War still at zero. But I mean, could we have a Kent State moment times 50? Yes. And maybe that meets some definition of Civil War. But I mean, 4 young people were killed 50 years ago this year at Kent State, and that situation could erupt tonight, right? As we tape this, and we're not waiting for something. The order, the encouragement to the police in a lot of cities and National Guardsmen in a lot of cities is enough, right? We heard him berating the governors, calling them weak, telling them to, crank it up. What did he say? He didn't say crush them. What were his words?
He said dominate the protesters.
Dominate them. Yeah, I mean, he's using a word that, you would have expected to hear in the Michael Jordan documentary. We didn't just want to beat the Pistons; we wanted to dominate them, which sounds super tough. Except what that means is, we want to keep them under 80 points and win by 15, crush their spirit. Not actually crush their spirit. After the game, the Pistons go to dinner. And he's doing this about people with guns. So, yeah. So I mean, I kind of want to say, hey, not Civil War, but I don't feel like downplaying his rhetoric.
Yeah. No. Let me be clear. Do I think we're going to put on red hats and blue hats and dig trenches? No. Full-blown war, unimaginable. But I guess what I'm referring to is even significant street violence between right-wing and left-wing factions where they're firing at each other, I would have thought was previously unimaginable. I now believe it's completely imaginable. And in the Rose Garden address, Trump mentioned Second Amendment rights for no reason, out of the blue, having nothing to do with that issue, meaning grab your guns. I'm giving you permission to get your guns and to use them against, they'll say looters, but really they mean protesters.
And no matter what they mean Americans. The headline in the Huffington Post, just to, again, which some conservatives may think of as a, liberal rag. But, we know, but it's good, but, it's useful. It serves a good purpose overall in the world. Trump declares war on Americans.
Yeah.
And, I read that after reading I still haven't seen it, but I read what he said in the Rose Garden, and that didn't feel really like hyperbole.
No, it's not, because he said, I'm going to use the military. And so first of all, even if you use the Insurrection Act, really, we're using the Insurrection Act. Okay.
It's like from 1807, something like that. Yeah. I think 213 years old. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Not because there's an actual insurrection of the loyalists to the crown, which is what that was about, right? But because, I don't like the left-wing protesters. I don't like the black protesters. There's enough looting of 6 or 7 stores or however, and maybe I don't want to underplay it. I don't know how many stores were looted.
Maybe it's 600 or 700, maybe. Right.
Whatever it is, it's still a tiny number compared to the whole country, and use that as an excuse for having the military seize the country. And if you say you're going to use the military inside the country, they have weapons. in a confrontation, the point of a weapon is that you could use it.
You know, the big argument that the right.
He's at a minimum, he's not going to send in military guys and say you're not allowed to use your weapons. So at a minimum, he's going to authorize the military to kill U.S. citizens on U.S. soil.
You know, the right has for years railed against the use of American forces as peacekeepers, right? It's not their job to be the world's police. And, you know, in those moments of rhetoric that, you know, they're not wrong. That is literally not what they're trained for. They're trained to defend the country from attack, and they're trained to attack when that means destabilizing the enemy who is supposedly a legitimate threat. So, yeah, I mean, the idea that all of a sudden this guy is going to call in the United States Armed Services, U.S. Marines, U.S. soldiers on American shores with guns pointed at Americans. I mean, it's bad enough when it's the National Guard. And by the way, I don't even know that it's not okay when there's mass looting to call in the National Guard to supplement the police under normal circumstances. And I mean normal circumstances of where you expected these people to behave, humanely, where it really was to keep the peace. But he doesn't mean any of it. He doesn't mean it like that. And of course, almost worst of all, and you and I in our thousands of political conversations, you know, when you or I or somebody else says politics, the other one was like, yeah, of course it's politics. Like, yeah, we get politics, right? These are politicians, and politics isn't a dirty word, right? And politics is how political change happens in the country, and political change in a country can be vital to progress. But for him, this is the most sinister mode of politics. We've heard from those internal meetings. They're like, hey, this is good for us. This gives us a law and order angle. This was a decision made about what's best in November, you know, with no regard for how that message is going to get received by thousands of armed police officers who look like they're in the military based on their equipment, standing with National Guardsmen who are essentially in the military.
All right, thanks for watching this free clip of Old School. Don't forget to become a TYT member today for the rest of the show and for more exclusive content throughout the network. Join now at tyt.com/join.